this is a demonstration of how to solve challenge number 6, which is the dimmer switch. So this program uses the A and B buttons to gradually dim and brighten the LEDs. So if I hold down the A button, the LEDs slowly become dimmer, and if I hold the B button, they slowly get brighter. The effect is quite a bit more noticeable when you actually load this onto the physical device. Here it says the program uses two if-then blocks with the button A is pressed block to check if a button is held down. It then uses a variable to update the brightness level inside each if-then block. Okay. So we're going to start with a forever loop. So for this one, we're not going to use on button A click because that only, whatever goes inside there only happens once whenever we press the button. Instead, we want something to continue to happen for as long as the button is held down. So we'll use a forever block, and then we'll use an if true then block. And what do we want to check here? We want to check if button A is down. So in input, if we scroll down, there's this block here, button A is pressed. So if we put this in here like that, then this will, whatever we put inside of here, will continually happen as long as the button A is pressed down. Okay, so when we start the program, let's get an on start. And when we start it, we want to set all the pixels to a color. I'll choose blue. And we want to set the brightness to somewhere in the middle. So you can see brightness goes from 0 to 255. Let's start it at like 100. 99 is fine. Okay. Now, when button A is pressed, we want to reduce the brightness. So the way that we're going to do that is we need a variable. So if I go over to variables, I already made a variable, right? I clicked make a variable, and I made one called bright. So at the beginning of our program, we also want to set bright to the same value as the current brightness. Right? So we initialize our program like this. And just to keep things clear, I'm going to change this. So I'm going to set the initial brightness to 100 and set my bright variable to 100 so that those are the same. Now when button A is pressed, I want to update the brightness, but I don't want to set it to a specific number. I want it, whatever the current brightness is, I want it to go down by 1. So what I'm going to do is under variables, I'm going to get this change bright by, and for button A, I want it to go down. So I'm going to change bright by -1. So for as long as button A is pressed, I'm going to change bright by -1. And then I'm going to set the brightness to that value. Okay. So now if I hold down A, you can see it slowly gets dimmer until it turns off. Again, it's a little bit clearer to see when you actually put it on the device. Okay, and then for the opposite, when button B is pressed, we want it to get brighter. So that's really simple now. We can just duplicate this, snap it on the bottom, change this to button B, and when we do that, we want to change bright by +1. Okay, so let's start by pressing A to go down until it's off, and now if I hold down B, it'll get brighter and brighter and brighter. Again, more noticeable on the actual device itself. And that's pretty much it. That will do it. If you wanted to make this even better, because the brightness can only be a value between 0 and 255, we really should limit our variable to be within that range, right? Because right now, if I keep holding the A button until it's off, I still have the A button down, so my variable is actually still going down, so it's somewhere in the negatives now. So we don't really want that. So what you could do to prevent that is get another if-then, put it around this, and say if, and we need a greater than, oh, that's going to be under logic, greater than. So we say if bright is greater than 1. So that means we only reduce the brightness if it's greater than 1. Meaning if it's 0, then we stop. So this won't make it so that variable can't go below 0. And then we can do the same thing for going up, right? We want to, I'm just going to try to duplicate this. Here we only want it to go up if brightness is less than 255, because that's the maximum, right? So we don't want to go above 255. So if bright is less than 255. So that will just make sure that your variable doesn't go outside of the range that you want. All right, and that should do it for challenge number 6.